No one remembers? Point slope. Point slope. So, I think it is easiest for all of us if we do every problem, every time we have to write the equation of a line. I think it's easiest for us if we do exactly the same process. So I'm on number 4 now, and here are my 2 points. And I know the directions say use slope intercept, but I'm not going to start that way. I'm going to start doing point slope, because that's what I know how to do from yesterday. What was the first thing I did yesterday? Point slope, remember, looks like this. First thing I did was find the slope. So here we go. Good review. Slope is y minus y over x minus x. Right?
Yes.
And I'm careful about the order that I do it. So I got, looks like -1. Then what did I do? I picked a point. Doesn't matter which one. Pick one. Which one you want to use, P or Q? P. So y minus 0. This becomes my x1, y1. So it would be y minus 0. Y minus 5 equals -1. X minus 0.
Yeah.
Now, yesterday, we stopped here. Because yesterday, the direction said answer in point slope. Today, it says slope intercept. So I'm going to have to go a couple steps more. I'm going to distribute. And that's just going to be 0. And get y by itself. And there is the slope intercept form. Now, this guy right here is exactly the same as this guy. But this one is in point slope, and this one is in slope intercept.
And then instead of doing like a 0 and 5, if you do the 4 and 1, you get the same answer.
It would look exactly like this. Yep. Yep. It doesn't matter which point you use, this is going to be your answer. Okay, so it's just like yesterday. So here we go. How about the next one? What's the first thing we do? By the way, was the quiz you just took exactly like the practice?
Yes.
It will always be that way, guys. It will always be that way. So you can get whatever grade you want if you just study the practice stuff, okay? All right, so where's my slope? -2 minus 2 over -3 minus 1. I got a lot of negatives going on here. -2 minus 2 is -4. And -3 minus 1 is also -4. So this time my slope turns out to be 1. All right, so what point do you want to use? Maybe this one?
No. Yeah.
That one at least doesn't have any, it doesn't matter. No, use whichever one works for you. I'm going to use this one. So y minus the y equals slope times x minus the x. Now, if you did use this point, when you did y minus your y, it would actually become a plus because it would be y minus the negative. All right, so a point slope right here. Now I have to distribute. Well, that's an easy one. And then add the 2 over. So there is the answer in slope intercept form. We good? So nothing different from what we did yesterday, except we have these extra couple steps. Distribute and get y by itself. All right, number 5. We're going to write the equation of the line. I'll leave this right here because that's what I'm gonna do. That's how I write the equation of a line. And all I know is that it passes through the point negative 2, 3, and it's parallel to this one. So would you agree this can be my x1, y1? I only have 1 point this time, but I only need one. What else do I need though? I need a point. What else do I need? Slope. Where's that coming from? Where am I gonna get my slope? Luke? Yeah, because you guys know what parallel means, right?
No.
What can you tell me about the slope of this line and the slope of this line? They're the same. If lines are parallel, they have the same slope. So this means same slope. And Luke says, this equation right here that they gave me is y equals mx plus b. So the slope is 3. So I'm going to use that point and a slope of 3. So y minus 3, that's this 3, equals m times x plus 2. It's technically minus a negative 2, so I made it plus 2. That would be the point slope form of the line. The directions don't really say how I should answer, so let's go ahead and answer it the other way too, just in case we have to. So what's my next step? This is my point slope form, I'm done. What would be my next step if I'm going to slope intercept? Distribute. And add 3. So depending on what the directions were, in this case there aren't any, but there will be like on a test or something. If we want point slope, this would be your answer. If you want slope intercept, this would be your answer. We good? All right, B. This is exactly the same thing. Our point is negative 2, 3, but this time we are perpendicular to this line. Now, parallel means same slope. Charles, what are you doing back there? Do you know where we are? Okay. So parallel means same slope. Anybody know what perpendicular means?
Opposite.
Okay, that's part of it, opposite, reciprocal. So this means you have to take the opposite reciprocal. All right, now, how do we find the slope of this line? We have to find the slope of this one first. What do we need to do? Get y by itself. Get y by itself. To find the slope, get y by itself. So, I'm going to subtract my 2x. So negative 4y equals negative 2x plus 1. So I'm minusing the 2x. Are you with me? And then dividing by negative 4. So y equals, okay, what happens? These cancel. What happens here?
1/2.
1/2, positive.
Yep.
And then minus 1/4. Now, I'm not really worried about that number because this one is the slope, right? That's really the only part of that equation I care about is the slope. So the slope of this line is 1/2. What will the opposite reciprocal be? -2. Negative, change the sign, opposite, and then flip it. So I need a slope of -2. All of that work was just to get my slope. Now I'm gonna use that point and that slope, and I'm gonna write my equation. So y minus 3 equals -2 x plus 2.
Distribute.
This, if the direction said, viewpoint slope, done. If we need slope intercept, then we're going to carefully distribute and add the 3. We good? Everybody okay? All right. Lousy, there's P4 due on Monday. P4 due on Monday.
Good.
All right, now listen, folks, now read the directions to P5 number 1. What's it say? Yeah, we need our calculator, okay? So I'm skipping this section for today, and you have till Monday then to have that graphing calculator, because we're gonna start graphing on the calculator on Monday. And if you don't have one, it's like trying to play basketball without a basketball, right? Not very easy to do. So make sure by Monday you have one. And how do we get one if we don't have one? We can either go buy one, or we can come see Mrs. Ford and check out a cathedral loaner for the year, right? So there's no reason, 0 reason to not have a graphing calculator on Monday. Good? Okay, so we're skipping part 1 for a minute, and we're gonna go on to number 2. P5, this section, is a very important section because it walks us through various ways to solve quadratic equations. Quadratic equations are equations that have a square. Okay? Now, we're gonna go through specifically different methods. All the methods are good. They all work. Sometimes one is easier than others. This is an example of a time when the easiest way to do this problem is simply to take the square root of both sides. Solve using square roots. That works perfectly for this problem. What is the square root of 4x squared? 2x, very good. What is the square root of 25? Here's the tricky thing. It's plus or minus 5. When you take the square root of a number, you have to put in plus or minus. Okay? On one side or the other. So I could have done it on the x side. It's easier to do it on the number side. But you have to have a plus or minus on one of the sides. When you take the square root, always, 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 it's plus or minus on one side or the other. Okay? So what does this say then? If I divide by 2, it says x equals plus or minus 5/2. How many answers did I get? 2. I will always get 2 answers when I do a quadratic equation because it's x squared. There's 2 x's. 2 answers every time. All right, what about b? Now, Again, there are other ways to do the problem, but this is set up beautifully to take the square root. What is the square root of x minus 3 squared? X minus 3, beautiful. And what's the square root of 25? Plus or minus 5. Remember, when you do this, when you square root both sides, you gotta put plus or minus on one side or the other. So what does this say? This says x equals 3 plus or minus 5. Add the 3 over. So what are my answers? 3 plus 5, which is 8. And 3 minus 5, which is negative 2. Every time you do it, solve an equation with an x squared, you're going to get 2 answers. If you don't get 2 answers, figure it out, because you got to have 2. Alright, how about this one? Now look at that one carefully and think about maybe what would be a good way to start.
Distribute.
Okay, now we gotta be careful because think of PEMDAS. If you're gonna mess around with this, you have to do it in the right order. And what would PEMDAS tell you to do first? The parentheses, the exponent, right? So you would have to square that and then times by 3. No, I don't think that's, you could do that, but it's not gonna be the easiest way to do the problem. How about if we divide by 3?
Yep.
Then we have x minus 4 squared equal to 3. Is that all right? Now, it's not gonna be as pretty as it was over here, but I can square root both sides. And what's this? X minus 4. And that is plus or minus the square root of 3. Now over here, we had plus or minus the square root of 25, so we could just say 5. But we can't, we just say it's root 3. But it's always plus or minus. Now I'm going to add 4. So I have 4 plus or minus root 3. Is that 2 answers? 4 plus root 3, 4 minus root 3. Now, you can write them separately if you want, but it's perfectly okay to leave them like this too, because you can't simplify them. So that's perfectly okay. All right, one more of these. What do you think about this? Square root, perfect. What's the square root of 2x plus 1 squared? 2x plus 1. Remember, when you square root a square, they like cancel. And what do I have on the other side? Not 4.
Plus or minus.
Plus or minus 4. Yep, plus or minus 4. Now this one's a little complicated. Would you agree that this is really 2 separate equations? 2x plus 1 equals 4, and 2x plus 1 equals negative 4? So to get my 2 answers, I will solve those 2 equations. So I can subtract 1 and divide by 2. So did you get 3 halves as 1 answer? And then the other one? two answers. Make sure you get two answers, okay? All right. Now, I want you to look at those four problems we just did. And then I want you to look at problem 3A. Doesn't 3A just look different than the four that we just did? Just the way it's built, it just looks different. This one does not seem like it would be a good idea to do this. Agreed? Yeah, it just isn't set up that way. So could it be done that way? Oh yeah, probably, but it's not gonna be the easiest way to do it. So we're going to do this one using a different method. And the directions say, complete the square. Mr. Meyer told me that you guys didn't complete the square last year. So this is gonna be brand new. It's easy, but it's gonna be brand new for you, so take really good notes. Step one, move this number to the other side of the equation. So in other words, I'm gonna add 7 over to the other side. Now notice, when I did that, I left a gap there. Where the 7 was, I left a gap there. Because what I'm gonna do is put a new number in that spot. 7 is not a good number to have in that spot. I'm gonna put a new one. And the new number that I put in there is going to be 9. This is 4. Where did you get 9? Why are you putting 9? Well, to get your new number, take half of this one. So take half of that number. So what's half of 6? 3. And then square it. So have you done this before? Okay. Take half of that number and square it. Divide by 2 and square it. And it's this number, the x number. Okay? Now, why did we do that? Well, if I said to you, factor this, can you do that? How would that factor right there? Wouldn't it be x minus 3, x minus 3? Which can be written x minus 3 squared. This process is called completing the square. You find a number that will make this whole mess a perfect square. Because now I have an equation that looks just like the 4 we did before. Doesn't it? So what do you think I'm going to do now? Square both sides. And the square root of x minus 3 squared is x minus 3. And the square root of 16 is, watch it, plus or minus 4. So I'll add my 3 over. And I have 3 plus 4. One of my answers is 3 plus 4, which is 7. And one of my answers is 3 minus 4, which is negative 1. All right, that's a lot. That's a lot. We're going to do, we're running out of time here, so I'm not going to start another one because they take longer. But that's really, really good. Really good. We'll pick up here tomorrow. So Monday. So what do we have to have done by Monday? P4. Gotta have P4 done, and we have to have a functioning calculator. Yep.